What's going on, guys? Aaron from PhoneDog.com. And what do you do when you're a carrier like AT&T and you have two flagship devices now? Well, you call in Aaron Baker and you ask him to do a dogfight. Motorola Atrix 4G just came out on AT&T, definitely a flagship Android device. And then you have the iPhone 4. This is actually the Verizon version, but for all purposes, it's exactly the same with the exception of a couple features, which we'll cover in the video. So the question is, which one's the best? Should you go with the iPhone, the flagship that's basically been the flagship for the past 3 years, or actually 4 years now, 3.5 years, or the Motorola Atrix? We'll find out in the dogfight. Special thanks to our gang over at Best Buy Mobile. They're hooking us up with two of these, so we can give them away to you and the One Paw Bandit, because we like giving away stuff. When you go into Best Buy Mobile to get this or to get this, they'll hook you up. They'll make sure you walk out working, get that email set up, get the web set up, teach you how to make, well, I'm sure you know how to make phone calls, but you get the idea, walk out working. Enough of that, let's get into the dogfight. So because of that big battery, the processor, the Tegra processor, Tegra 2, is not taking as much battery life as I would have expected it to. But the widgets, if you like widgets, this is the device to go with. Let's take a look at the competing app stores here. The App Store on iPhone, the Android market on Android. Let's go back there. Go to, I was looking at rent.com. So you can see the categories. We'll just go into games, for example. And very easy to use like anything else iOS. Fantastically, in my opinion, designed for the most part. There are some frustrations. Like when you go to updates, if I were to click on this, update my applications, I have 5 apps to update. And I click update all, it requires me to enter my password. Now I get that when you're downloading applications or when you're buying something, but for updates, you don't really need your password. It should be fairly self-explanatory. And then, of course, you have something like Android where you can allow automatic app updating where you can download instantly without having to put in a password or anything like that. So, while there are more apps in the App Store, that may be something that's important to you, and it's a frustration for a lot of people, myself included. So let's look at all applications. We'll go to top free just to show you a sample. And they recently changed the Android market. I'm sure you've seen it by now, but just more fluid, looks better. Let's see. I feel like I say that in every video, so I'm shooting it for people that haven't seen my videos on a regular basis. But for those that do, I'm sorry that I say the same thing about the Android market every time. I just want to make sure it's clear to everybody. So we'll look here at Facebook for Android, and you can see it's revised with my review description, sharing reviews related on one page, and then when we hit free to install, it's going to bring up those permissions down here, and then we can hit OK. And you'll see it downloading in the notifications bar. Another good thing about Android, the notifications bar significantly better as opposed to iPhone. So instead of that, when you have the iPhone, and I'm sure you've seen this before if you have an iPod Touch or an iPhone, some notification pops up, big obnoxious box in the middle. Whatever you're doing, you're browsing the web, you're doing anything. Let's go back here. You're surfing the web, you're checking your email, somebody sends you a text message and it's like boobly boop, like right there in the middle. You want me to do that again? Boobly boop. Right there in the middle, interrupts whatever you're doing and keeps you from, you either have to close or reply right there. So if you have friends or family like I do where they'll send you 7 consecutive text messages in a row, you're sitting there browsing the web, boobly boop, boobly boop, boobly, it's frustrating to do. Whereas with Android, the notifications appear very, very organized in the top left-hand corner, just below or just beside AT&T rather. You can get to them when you want to get to them, and it's very easy and very simplistic. So notification system, Android wins by a mile on that. Same thing with app downloads. They're okay on iOS, but you can see the progress through the notifications bar up here. So I happen to be a fan of Android's notification system. WebOS is fantastic as well. So we'll wait and see, when the Pre 3 and some of the other ones come out. But this is a dogfight between these two, and so notifications much, much better on Android. So let's take a look at the phone applications because they are very different, obviously, between Android and iOS. So you have those loaded up here. That's what it looks like out of the box, and you can see this doesn't have island keys. The Motorola Atrix does. The tabs are up here on the top for the Atrix. You have dialer, recent, contacts, and favorites. Obviously, very self-explanatory across the board. So you go to contacts, or go to recent rather, and you can see no recent calls. Go to favorites. Old Man Baker is going to be a favorite because I call myself all the time. Dialer, you can see what it looks like. And same thing here, except the tabs are on the bottom. Favorites, recent calls, contacts, visual voicemail, etc. So It serves the same function, but you can see there are some minor design differences. The same email account installed on both of these devices, and obviously it's different because of the operating system differences. So we'll take a look at both on one on iOS, one on Android. So it's the Old Man McTweety test account, and you can see we'll go into let's do customize Gmail with colors. We'll do that one, customize Gmail with colors. I was really excited about that. You can see what they look like between the two here. Gmail team, you can see the header looks different on Android. This is what it looks like on iOS. So let's go up to 3 here, and you can see that the email address doesn't stay at the top. So when I scroll down, I lose that. Now the difference with that in Moto Blur, or Android rather, you can see when it scrolls down, the header does stay at the top. So anywhere in the email, I can hit reply, I can hit forward, I can hit reply all, and compose the email, and then you have archive and delete down here. So again, very simplistic, very easy to use on iOS, but not necessarily intuitive, just easy to use, as opposed to something that's a little bit harder, but does have some intuition to it. Quadrant Standard is not in the App Store at the moment, so we're going to do the Quadrant Standard on the Motorola Atrix, and while that's running, we'll look at the speed test, even though, like I said, this is the Verizon iPhone, so keep in mind that the network speed tests over here are not what you're going to see on AT&T. AT&T is, in my opinion, much faster. So we'll take a look at Quadrant Standard, because I want to give you an idea of what, this is the first dual-core processor powering a device, and it's super fast. I don't want to spoil it for you beyond that. So let's take a look at the speed test while that's running on here, and we'll do that. And just to give you an idea of the camera quality, 5-megapixel cameras on both of these devices. I find the camera on the iPhone to be better, much more clear, and then you have the HDR option. This is, in my opinion, better than the Motorola Droid X, than the 8-megapixel camera that comes with it. That said, it's still behind other devices like HTC's 8-megapixel cameras, Inspire, Evo, etc., and then the iPhone 4. So, if I said 4G in this video, I apologize. It's the iPhone 4. It's just there's so much 4G stuff that we're dealing with, Inspire 4G, Atrix 4G, that occasionally I get slipped up. So I apologize if I said that. Now here's the Atrix 4G. It's running through Quadrant Standard. We're going to begin the speed test here. We're going to try to multitask a little bit and see how that goes. I'm a bad multitasker, so it might fail, but we're going to try. We're going to check the benchmark here, and you can see 2,652 literally blows everything else out of the market that's on the market right now. Say that 3 times fast. Everything that's on the market blows it out of the water. The next one down, Nexus 1, running Android 2.2, according to this. 2,652, blazing fast, awesome device, powerful, very powerful processor. Let's go to speed test, load that up, and we're going to begin the test. And then you can see here, these are Verizon download and upload speeds, and they're usually pretty consistently between that at about 1.5 megabits per second on the download. Now with the AT&T version, I average between 1.5 and about 3.5 megabits per second on the download. So keep that in mind. AT&T's data speeds are much faster, and while they are a little bit less reliable than the Verizon ones, Verizon's pretty consistent across the board. Much faster data speeds. Now you look at the Atrix 4G. The moment 1.5 megabits per second on the download, about 343 kilobits per second on the up. We'll take a look at it again. You can see it's, for whatever reason, it's a little bit low. The iPhone, at least in my testing, seems to always score higher than any other device that I work with, any other AT&T device that I work with. So something to keep in mind. But you can see those are, don't drop it. Those are the Atrix down, my corny jokes. Anyway, 1.1 megabits per second, 283 kilobits per second on the download. So keep in mind, like I said, Verizon version. So that's the end of the dogfight. Keep in mind, one has to be declared a winner. And again, I say this all the time, but really, oftentimes these dogfights are by a very narrow margin. And by a narrow margin, I have to give it to, you ready for this? You ready for this? I have to give it to the Motorola Atrix 4G. I think the product life cycle of the iPhone, you're about 6 months, actually about 8 months in to the life cycle of the iPhone. You know that this is going to get refreshed every year, and we're coming up on a product refresh of the iPhone. So keeping that in mind, and the fact that this is powered by an awesome dual-core processor, and things like a biometric fingerprint reader here where you can just swipe your fingerprint and get right into the device as opposed to some design or pin. Awesome device, very well equipped, and despite the build quality, in my opinion, iPhone excels in build quality, media platform, and web browsing. This excels in just being a freaking fast device, and has a nice display, a bigger display, and is all around, Android 2.2 is awesome. Moto Blur does affect this device. I would say it would be more of a landslide if Moto Blur weren't pre-installed, and that you also notice some lag as a result of Moto Blur, like when you occasionally, when you power the device up, you can see that it lags there, and occasionally the notifications bar will lag. But all in all, awesome device that I think anybody would be pleased with. I like the Inspire 4G a little bit more on AT&T, but the Atrix 4G between these two, awesome device to consider. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com, so keep it locked on the site. Hey, like us on Facebook. We're pretty awesome guys and gals. Facebook.com/PhoneDog, and we're giving away stuff in the next couple of weeks, so keep that in mind. Be sure to stay tuned for our contests, our upcoming contests, and follow me on Twitter, PhoneDog_Aaron. You think I'm crazy, the iPhone should have won, you think I'm awesome because the Atrix won, hey, let me know. I like hearing from you, good or bad, so be sure to tweet me, PhoneDog_Aaron. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.